Today, we're going to talk about a few more tips that are very, very important when it comes to putting in offers, when it comes to negotiating. And we're actually going to use this whiteboard behind us. We're going to run through an example of how last week we talked about the 3 offer strategy. So this week we're going to actually show how we would work those numbers, how we can use the 3 offer strategy. Okay, all right. Point number 1, we're going to go through 4 points. 4 points today, and then last week we already talked about 3, okay? If you remember and you joined us last week, we talked about the importance of asking questions. You have to have the background before you put in an offer. It is so important.
And we went through the questions.
I would suggest never put in an offer until you've asked a million questions and you know the story behind that property, because you could just be wasting your time, or you could be paying thousands of dollars more, or you could have the wrong terms in your offer if you don't ask the right questions up front. So important to ask questions. Point number 2 last week was using multiple offer strategies, and that's going to tie in with our 5th point today, and we're going to show you on this whiteboard exactly how to do a multiple offer strategy. Okay, so that's putting in more than one offer at the same time on the same property. Okay?
And as well, yes, this is whether you're working with a realtor or not working with a realtor. Someone like Justin, I see Justin, you're on there. Hey, buddy. If you're working with an investor-focused realtor, yes, they will do these things for you if you're organized enough. If your numbers make sense, this is an absolute win for them
for sure.
As well.
Absolutely. And last week, our 3rd point was about a red herring, throwing something in there that distracts the conversation, something that you're willing to take out, but throw it in the offer to begin with. And then once you take it out, you're already satisfying them.
So everyone likes to win something.
Yeah,
you have
exactly.
To
you have to give a win to the seller.
Win.
And for the most part, we're talking about you being the buyer in this scenario. And you have to give a win to the seller. You have to feel like they've won in the negotiation as well. And as all of you know, you have to feel like you win, right? You have to have that winning feeling. You have to feel like you're winning.
That you don't care about, really. If you got it, great. It can be something like a boat. It can be something like a barbecue. It can be any kind of term that you're willing to let go in case they come back and say, hey, don't really like that. Well, they don't want to ask for the world either, but it gives them something to win on that you've had to back down on, and now you can focus on the things that really matter to you, which are the terms and or the price.
Okay, so that leads us to point number 1.
Last week.
That leads us to point number 1 for today. Point number 1 for today is don't always lowball. Okay, now I want that to sink in for a second because it's so important. Sometimes when we start a negotiation or we're ready to put in an offer, the first thing that we're thinking about is the price. But let me tell you that there are a lot of things in an offer, in many cases, that are more important, that can serve you better as an investor than just getting the lowest possible price.
So do we want to make money on our buys? Absolutely, we want to make money on our buys. However, sometimes it's more important to get those terms. So stop just thinking about price. Yes, think about price, but don't just think about price.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you an example, and this is going to tie in with our multiple offer strategy that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But if you could buy a property for $5,000 down, instead of having to put down $50,000, would that increase your return on investment? Would that increase your ROI?
Would you be willing to pay more for that property because you're able to put down less cash on it?
Okay, so if there's less cash out of your pocket, your ROI skyrockets. The less cash you have to put down. So that will tie in a little bit later, but what the point is, point number 1 is don't always think price first. Don't always think you have to lowball an offer. Sometimes buying a property at market value, sometimes buying a property slightly above market value is beneficial for you as an investor and will pay off with a higher return on investment than buying something because you got a lowball offer accepted. So we're going to describe that a little bit more when we get to the multiple offer strategy and when we get to the whiteboard. But that's point number 1.
So speaking of that for point number 2, so if you're running around doing all these lowball offers, will you get some? Absolutely. Yeah, you probably will. But you know what you may also get? And this isn't always. It depends on how reasonable you're being. And we're talking lowball being like, super low, not just a good deal. But your reputation in this business precedes you. We are not a large circle, especially in Canada. We are not a large circle of people. People will get to know both realtors and other investors whether or not you play fair or don't. So will you first get a few? Yeah, and maybe your first year or two of investing will be okay. But after that, when your reputation kicks in, you will not be offered those assignment deals that are really where you're going to make some money. Your realtors won't want to work with you. There's a lot of things that will come along where opportunities will leave you because you are scratching for those pennies when really you're stepping over those dimes. So your reputation.
Reputation is so important. If we're throwing 10 lowball offers out there at a time, trying to get one of them accepted, and we're using a strategy similar to that, our reputation will precede us. Somebody sees our name, another realtor sees our name on that offer being submitted to that house, they will not take it seriously if we have a bad reputation. And believe me, reputation, we live in a city of about 1 million people, and our reputation preceded us when it came to our buying, when we were really actively buying. We would present an offer.
How many did we have to put in, right?
Yeah, and a lot of realtors would say, hey, I know these guys, they closed on the last one.
Yeah.
I'm good with this, and they would vouch for us. So actually having, and you would think, okay, well, there's how many houses sell, and there's a million people in the city. They're not going to know whether, but it's so important, and it's amazing how much, because a lot of the times we're going to try to buy more properties in the same neighborhood. A lot of times we're going to deal with the same realtors over and over again. And so our reputation is extremely important. But point number 2 was remember your reputation when you're putting in your offers.
So I'll just build on that a little bit too. Not only did the other realtors vouch for us, but the realtors that we were using ourselves also vouch for us. So for example, well, I can't even tell you how many times our realtor went forward and said to their other, they also know people, right? They're also well connected, especially if they're a busy realtor. They know other realtors and have done deals with them. And the other realtor will say to them, so what's with these guys? Are they going to be a typical investor and pull out last minute, or lowball us to the end, or what's with them? And when your own realtors can say, look, this is my 7th deal with them, or even this is my 2nd deal with them, or even, these guys seem really fair, they seem reasonable. No, I don't think they're going to do that to you. When they can vouch for you, there's huge power in having a professional who knows other colleagues saying, no, I think you're good. I think it's worth it. I think you'll be happy with what happens here.
Yeah.
So really guard that reputation. Even if you're in a big city, trust me, it gets around. So we got deals offered to us. We got multiple offer situations coming in where we won the deal solely because our realtor said to their, counterparts, no, we're good to go. These guys will close on it. I think you can go ahead and
absolutely
and go for it.
So if we just start to tweak them a little bit and we start to just remember some of these strategies, it's going to help your offers get accepted. It's going to actually help you get a higher ROI in the end if we can create the best possible offer.
A lot of times we say as investors, we are unemotional. Well, guess what? We've worked with thousands of investors over the last 18 years. And guess what? We can absolutely assure you of. That is not true. That is not true. Not only do we get emotional, but many times that emotion is what gets in our way. So point number 3 is about emotions. Now, how does that come into play in winning a deal?
Okay.
Or an offer?
So here's a scenario. Imagine you found a house and you figure it's worth $300,000. Okay.
And you probably know your stuff, so that's probably fairly accurate.
Yeah. And the people on the other end are offering it for $300,000. It's on the MLS for $300,000. Now, what's the typical thing that most people would probably do? They're probably going to say, well, it's worth $300,000. They're asking $300,000, but I'm going to start lower than that. Okay, so you might put in an offer for, depending on the market, somewhere around $275, $280, $285, something like that. Now imagine this scenario. Now you put in an offer for $285,000 and you're thinking to yourself, that's only $15,000 less. That's a pretty good offer, right? Then once you've put that offer in and the response you get from the seller is, no, they chose not to counter your offer.
So no, not, We'll take 380 or whatever. No. Or sorry, 390, 395.
Right. You're kind of thinking they might
like,
come down to
no.
295. They might come down to 290. We can kind of work something in the middle, and maybe that's what's going on in your head. If we start at 280, we'll finish at 290, and this is the thinking going on. So now you get a response from the seller, and they say, "Sorry, we can't counter that offer." And our price is $300,000. What's the first thing that goes through our mind? Well, in my experience in dealing with hundreds of different investors, the first thing that goes through their mind is, well, what a jerk. Mm-hmm. Why didn't they...
Forget that.
Yeah, what a jerk. And so here's the point. The point is we don't want to get our emotions involved. If that property is worth $300,000 and they're asking $300,000, there's nothing wrong with buying it for $300,000. Now, if we want to buy it for a little bit less, that's fine. And if we want to walk away, that's fine.
But if the numbers work at 3...
If we can check our emotions at the door, though, and now realize, okay, they're not willing to move a whole lot on the price. So let's find a little bit about that story. Let's find out why they're sticking at $300,000. Let's go back to point number 1 from last week. Let's ask some questions. Let's dig into this scenario a little bit deeper. And you might find out that they owe $305,000 on it. You might find out that they owe that $305,000 plus the fees to their realtor, and so they're already having to take $20,000 out of their pocket to sell this house.
So they're not. So the assumption is, forget them. They're being a jerk. Fine, I'll buy someone else's house, because our emotions and maybe that's pride, but still that's an emotion, gets involved in there when really maybe it's still a good deal at 300. Maybe we're still going to make money on it. Maybe our joint venture partners are still going to want us to buy it. And here we're walking away from something. And maybe they're not being a jerk. Maybe that's just what they actually need. And if it still fits for us, who cares what convention says about negotiating and meeting in the middle and all that stuff? Who cares if it still works?
Absolutely. My thinking on that is I would place another offer. Okay, my thinking on that is I would put in another offer and maybe try something a little bit higher. Try something at $295 if the numbers work. And obviously I wouldn't be putting in an offer if they didn't. I would still pursue that. And so what's the point? The bottom line point here, guys, is don't let your emotions take over. Don't assume that the other side is trying to do something wrong or trying to be a jerk or getting emotionally involved. Just keep your emotions at the door, and you could probably still get a lot more. You can complete a lot more deals and complete a lot more negotiations when it comes to your offers. Okay, so that was point number 3. Keep your emotions, leave them at the door. Okay, don't get involved emotionally when it comes to your offers.
A good deal is one that gets done. Remember. Because it's not a good deal anymore if it doesn't ever hit your plate.
Great question, Terry. Terry Berry says, do you offer 3 options over time within the offer process or all at once? We're going to delve into that a little bit more. Yeah, but in the scenario I just talked about...
You're going to love it, Terry. It's on a whiteboard.
In the scenario I just talked about, I would now counter with 3 different options. So a lot of the times when it comes to a multiple offer strategy, I do that after presenting my first offer. So it's not necessarily always right at the very beginning. Sometimes we present our number 1 best offer. If they accepted it, we'd be getting absolutely everything. If they don't accept that and they either don't counter or they counter with something else, at that point is when I put in the 3 offer strategy in many cases. But we'll get into that in a little bit more detail.
We'll just cover point number 4 real quick, and it's about being simple and using, watching that you don't use investor terminology. And when can you do this? It might be in your offer. It might be through your realtor. On an offer paperwork, there's not a whole lot. But one thing we often recommend is that you use a cover letter. And so if you're using a cover letter to say to a homeowner, give a message, and yes, you can have your realtor put your cover letter in for you with your offer. It can say, hey, I grew up in this area, or, it's across the street from my mom's place, or, whatever reason it is that you want.
We love this area because of the new mall going in, or the new transportation, or, build up that area in their mind. Say, we love this area because of, we love your house because of.
And then you talk a little bit about yourself. So yeah, I am an investor, but My mandate is to provide quality housing, and that's why your house attracted me. Or my mandate is to help young families, or my mandate is to help seniors that need places that have very little stairs. Whatever that might be, you're going to go forward with a cover letter with your offers explaining who you are, why you want the place, why you think they should choose your offer over other offers. But in that, remember that the common language of people around us is not the investor language that we use. We have our own little language sometimes. So use normal, everyday language. Don't talk about, transportation changes and, just say stuff like
VTBs and
Yeah, you're just going to talk to them very simply and normal. And
most people are scared of investors to begin with, right?
Absolutely.
So we want to keep it simple.
They think that we're out for only our own gain, so let them know differently. That's the point. So use a cover letter, especially if you're in a multiple offer situation, competing for someone to take your offer over others. Tell them about yourself, tell them about the mandate, and tell them what it is that you plan to do with that house that you think that they actually might want. And it might take away the fact that, if Alberta Real Estate Opportunities is the purchaser, which is our corporation's name that we bought all our properties in, and if they're the purchaser and they're going, oh, I don't want a corporation buying this home, I painstakingly, put together all the cupboards and, make it more personal, but use simple, easy to understand language to introduce them to you.
So 4 points we've talked about already, guys, in the last 28 minutes. We talked about number 1, do not always lowball. There's so many other things in the offer that could give you a higher ROI. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 was your reputation is so important. Yes, you, a small investor, can become known in a city of 1 million people with the realtors that you're dealing with and the sellers that you're dealing with. Your reputation means a lot, so keep that in mind. Number 3, don't get emotional when it comes to the negotiation process. Don't let your emotions take over and get mad or get upset or get prideful when it comes to writing offers or doing a negotiation. Just remember that somebody on the other side is making the same types of decisions, and so they can only do what's best for them as well. And point number 4 that we just talked about was simplicity. So don't get overly wordy, don't get too technical. The easier, the cleaner you can write your offers, the more offers you're going to have accepted.
Now, do you want to see how the 3 offer situation works? How do you pose things? How do you set it up? It's quite simple. It's not rocket science. But the beauty of it, again, like we talked about last week, is that when you do have 3 offers to the same, seller, and you're saying, look, at scenario 1 looks like this, scenario 2 looks like this, and scenario 3 looks like this, you'll be amazed at how people come back and just say, okay, we'll take number 2.
Yeah.
They don't say, we'll take number 2 and we're going to counter you at this much on offer number 2. They don't counter back. They just say, okay, we'll take number 2. And so your offers become a lot more reliable. And yeah, it's a pretty powerful strategy.
So Chris asked a really good question. What might a seller care about above price that could sway their decision to sell it to you? So for example, Chris, I'll give you a few examples. Number 1, possession date. They might want to sell it quicker rather than later, or they might want to sell it later rather than quicker. And that could make a difference of a few $1,000s. What other things? They might want less conditions on the property rather than more conditions. So an offer coming in that only has a financing condition versus an offer that comes in that has a financing and an inspection and a condo doc review and a buyer's lawyer review and have to sell my other house to be able to buy this one. All of those types of conditions can have an effect. The more conditions you add to an offer makes your offer less attractive.
And
another
Chris,
thing is deposit. Somebody puts in an offer with a $500 deposit, or somebody puts in an offer with a $10,000 deposit. Which one looks more serious? So, the $500 deposit offer might be $1,000 or $5,000 more purchase price, but somebody, and I've seen this many times, will accept the $10,000 deposit offer.
Well, more, but
or whatever. No, even $10,000
really?
over the $500 if they had those 2 offers at the same time, and take a couple $1,000s less. So there's a lot of other things in the offer process and there's many more. What's included?
So
all
this
of those
is the other
sorts
thing,
of
Chris.
things.
For you and Jen, saying, and even including a picture of you guys on your cover letter and saying, you know, we're a young family, we've been in the oil patch, but as we all know, that's taken a tumble. We're looking at, you know, changing and creating income different ways. Now, rest assured, we're not looking, you know, we're looking to help young families just like ourselves that, you know, can't own a house right now for whatever economic reason or whatever it might be. But for you guys to just, you know, we're a young family just trying to make it all work just like you are. That's, you know, a big thing that you guys especially could use in putting a picture in on that cover letter can absolutely help.
Don't get stuck on too many of the details, okay? I want to just show the difference between one offer, two offers, three offers, and how this strategy can help you. So don't get stuck on the numbers, don't get stuck on some of the details, but think about how you could use this strategy in your particular market or in your particular situation if you're writing offers right now. We're going to make a few assumptions on this offer. So I want to run through the assumptions we're going to make first of all. So assumption number one is we're putting in an offer and the seller's motivated. Okay? And I would always make a list of some of the things you're assuming when it comes to an offer. Okay? And if you have these things listed down, then during the process, you can see whether your assumptions were correct or not. But some of the things we're going to assume in this particular offer, we have a motivated seller. Number two, because we used questions at the very beginning, we found out that this seller happened to be living in the house for at least 10 years. So they've been in the house a while. You're going to see how that helps our offer, okay? So we found that out. They've been in there a long time. That's going to help our offer. Assumption number three, that the seller wants a quicker possession, okay? We found that out as well. They want it sold quicker rather than later. Assumption number four, this property is priced at market value, okay? So this is not under, this is not over, it's at market value. It's going to require a small renovation, maybe $10,000 or so, okay? And we are buying this as a long-term buy and hold. That's the strategy we're going to be using in this scenario. And we're buying in a market that has long-term fundamentals. So we figure this market is going to go up in value over a period of time. Okay, so that's a list of some of the assumptions we're making going into this particular negotiation. Now, what's our goals for this negotiation? Our goals is to get the least money down as possible. Okay, that's the goal that we're going in with. And you're going to see how we go about structuring our offer if that's our goal. Now, least money down means highest return on investment. If we're getting $1,000 return, but we only put $1 in, that's a massive return. But if we put in $10,000 and we're getting $1,000 back, it's still a decent return, but nowhere near if we only put $1 in. So you get my point. Lower money down, higher ROIs. And we want to get the highest amount of cash flow in this scenario. Okay, so how are we going to structure this offer? We're going to go on one that is exactly what we bought in the past and how we structured the offer. So the pricing is a little bit different than what it is now, but again, don't get stuck on the numbers, okay? In this scenario, they are asking $135,000 for this 3-bedroom condo, okay? So they're asking, let's see, I got to write this like this so it's nice and thick. 135,000 is our asking price. Okay, now we're going to have offer A, offer B, and offer C. Now, they're asking 135. How can we structure this so that we put the least amount down and so that we have the highest amount of cash flow? Offer number A. Let's just make these a little bit farther apart.
Offer number A?
Offer letter A. Get. Okay, we're going to put in an offer of $120,000. 20% down, so that's purchase price. 20% down in this scenario is going to be $24,000 is down payment, and mortgage is going to be $96,000. Okay, that's giving $120,000 offer. Offer number one is simply putting in a lower offer. I'm buying this at $135,000. Remember that that's market value in this scenario, and I'm getting it for $120,000. Am I happy with this? yes, I'm getting it under market value. Okay, so that's offer number 8. I'm happy with it if I get it for 120. There's nothing creative here, but I'm getting it under market value. Nothing wrong with that. Offer letter B, okay, purchase price, and this particular offer is now $125,000. And that makes my down payment at $125,000, 20% down. But in this scenario, remember what my goal is? My goal is to get the lowest amount down as possible. So in this scenario, I'm going to ask for a vendor take-back mortgage, okay? So this, in offer B, I'm going to try to get it for 10% down of $125,000, which works out to a down payment of $12,500. That makes my mortgage in this scenario $100,000, and a second mortgage in this scenario of $12,500. Now, I'm going to get them to hold that second mortgage for me for 3 years in scenario number B. And the way we've always done our VTBs in the past, and again, don't get stuck on, well, I can't do VTBs these days and it's harder these days. We're just talking about the point of putting in 3 different offers in this scenario, okay? In this scenario, they're getting $125,000 on the second mortgage. I'm going to be paying them an interest rate of 5% for 3 years, and that's going to work out to another $1,875, okay, in interest.
$1,875.
$1,875. So now when I add up, okay, that's purchase price. When I add up my money down, my mortgage, my second mortgage, and the interest I'm giving to them, in this scenario, they're getting $126,875. Okay, so they're getting $6,800 more, although they're going to have to wait a few years, 3 years, to get some of that money. Okay, they're going to have to wait 3 years to get 14,000, roughly 14,000 of that money will come in 3 years. The rest of it they're going to get right upon closing. Why is this a good scenario for me? It's a good scenario for me because I'm only putting $12,500 down instead of $24,000 down. Remember, this property requires a $10,000 renovation. So in this scenario, I'm literally getting my renovation paid for me, and it's not more money coming out of my pocket. So what does that mean? That means it's a higher return on investment. I'm getting a higher ROI in this scenario, and I'm paying the seller a higher price in the end. So they win because they get a higher price. I win because it's less money out of my pocket. So I'm hoping that this is starting to make sense. Now,
so really, when you're putting in your offer to them, the numbers you're talking about and the numbers you're going to focus on, it's none of this stuff. All they see is at the top of your spreadsheet, which we use a spreadsheet for this and present it to them, is this number right here. They look and go, wait, this one's offering me 126, this one's offering me 120.
yeah.
Now that's number A, B, and what's
Okay.
offer C?
Let's do offer C, okay? So remember, I always throw in 3, and the reason I do 3 offers is because it gives them more choice, and I'm going to explain that a little bit more here in a second. So offer C. Now offer C is going to give them the most amount of money, but it's going to benefit me the most as well, okay? So offer C, I'm going to offer them $132,500.
What was the asking price?
Remember, what was their asking price? Their asking price was
$135,000.
$135,000. Okay, I'm going to offer them $132,500, but only 5% down in this scenario. So for me, 5% down is $66,225. Okay, so instead of putting $24,000 down, I'm only putting $6,600 down. All right. Their first mortgage.
One second. I'm bad with numbers, so I need them to line up. And if anyone else is, now they will.
Oh, now I get it. Okay. And the mortgage in this scenario is $106,000. Higher mortgage because 80% of this is a higher purchase price than here. So the mortgage keeps going up, as you see. And a second mortgage in this scenario of $19,875. So in this scenario, I'm going to ask for a 5-year VTB in this scenario because remember, I want a longer period of time to be able to pay out this money. So the interest that they're going to gain at 5% over 5 years versus 3 years is going to be more. 2 more years of collecting interest. So let's write down another number, Tiffany, of $49,68.75. $49,68.
$49,000 or $4,900?
$4,968.75.
I'm just doing $49,60.
Okay, so what's our total? What are they getting here? A $137,468.75. $137,468.75. I'm going to clarify a couple quick things here. When it comes to our VTBs, what we've done in every single case is we've done what we call a balloon payment, which means they get all their principal and all their interest at the end of the term. So that means in 5 years, in scenario C, I'm going to be giving them roughly $25,000. So 5 years down the road, out of this 137, they're getting 25 grand down the road. Okay? So what does that enable me to do? That enables me to have higher cash flow. Remember, that was one of my goals. I'm going to have higher cash flow because this interest payment is not coming out of my cash flow on a monthly basis. Okay? Where do we pay that money from? Well, the idea is to remember we're buying in a market with long-term fundamentals. The idea is that over 5 years of that property going up in value and 5 years of that mortgage being paid down, we can refinance and we can pay out this second mortgage at that point. And over that 5-year period, we were able to have a higher amount of cash flow, and we were able to put a lower amount of money down. Because we only put $6,600 down, our return on investment is going to be significantly higher. Now, a few things I'm going to show you about this scenario. Here in this scenario, I am actually wanting them to pick this one. Now, how am I showing that? Do you see that this number to this number to this number does not go up incrementally? For example, we don't go from 120 to 126 to 132. That would be up by 6,000, up by 6,000. We're not doing that. We're increasing the gain here much more than the increase from here to here.
And remember, the first thing that they see when you're giving them these offers is this number. So to do the math, it's reversed, but this is the number they're looking at. The first thing they see is, I have 3 offers. One is for 120. No thanks, dude. Like, I'm asking 135. This one, 126. Okay, that's a little more close to my ballpark. Wait, 137,500.
Over asking price.
You're giving me one over my asking price. Now, I'm going to focus right here. Now, if I can't comply with the terms here, that's okay. Now, they know that we've got other options for them.
Can you be strategic in what order you make these offers on the sheet? Okay, George, so I'm actually going to present, and George, you're one of our Ignited members, so you have the spreadsheet to do this. And I present all 3 at the same time on the same simple spreadsheet. And the reason I do that is so that they can look at all of them. So if I want, and remember, one of the keys is I'm happy with them picking any one of these. Any one of these can be a win
because
for me.
Either you're getting a sweet deal for way less than what they were asking and what it is worth. Remember, this is worth $135, okay? So you're getting a sweet deal, or you're getting some low money down and an option to pay back the rest later, or you're getting way low money down and yeah, you're paying interest for it, but not for 5 years or until you pay them back.
Yeah.
So either of these scenarios, you're winning, you're happy no matter what they choose, but by empowering them to choose what they feel is best, the other thing that you're going to do with these is you're going to put different closing dates too sometimes. So then they're going to be like, oh wait, this one closes tomorrow, this one closes in 2 weeks, and this one closes in 6 months. So here's
the other key. Do you remember I said at the very beginning one of the assumptions that I'm going to make because I asked the right questions was they wanted a quicker close? Oh, okay. So what I would actually do is just opposite of what Tiff said. So I would want them to be choosing option C because that only means $6,000 out of my pocket. So in this offer, I would be making this close within 30 days. In this offer, I would make it 60, and in this offer, I would make it 90. And so again, that's one of the terms in the offer that I would adjust so that they're picking the one I want them to pick. Okay, I'm okay with them picking this one and I close in 90 days and I get it for $15,000 under market value. That's fine. But I want them to pick this one because I know when I've asked the questions that they want a quick closing. Well, give me what I want, low money down, and I'm going to give you what you want, a quick closing, and above your asking price. So here's the key. If we go to them and say, hey, are you guys open to a VTB? Are you open to a second mortgage? You know, you're going to hold it for 5 years. I'm going to give you 5% interest. I'm going to give you all this. And we get into that kind of a conversation. What happens is a confused mind says no.
Yeah.
So we got to step back here, show them numbers on a simple spreadsheet, and all of you Ignited members have this. And if we present it to them in a simple manner, which was point number 4 today, then we're able to then, if they say, okay, C, I like C, can you explain that in more depth? Now we can explain it. Okay, now they're open to that idea, and that's when we start explaining the strategy behind it and why it's good for us and why it's good for them. Once they've chosen one of the 3. Marie, how do you choose the percentage for the VTB and the term? I always want a longer term. Longer term is better for me. That's why I am giving them what they want here. I'm giving them the highest asking price, or purchase price, I should say. I'm also giving them the quickest closing. So I'm giving them the stuff that they want so that they choose this one, and I get what I want. How do I choose the percentage? I usually start at something like 4 or 5%, and interest rate that I'm going to pay them.
Or does she mean money down?
No, percentage for the VTB.
Okay.
Maybe you mean money down. I'm not sure, Marie. But interest rate, I will start with something like 5 or 6% and kind of go from there. And maybe one of the responses that I get is, you know what, this all sounds good. Could you do 6% instead of 5%? And then we can negotiate on that.
So in our investor world, we know that we can get 15, 20% on a regular basis for some of our stuff. In the normal world, if someone's offered, 3%, they're thinking, man, that's what the banks make. And you can even say that that's what the banks make. And they're happy with that. So you don't have to be going in offering like we used to and what the climate used to hold.
Remember, there's a lot of people that have lost 50% of their money over the last, they've been losing money in the stocks or in mutual funds or whatever. So if we're offering them something that's on title, that's like a bank
Secured.
getting, you're secured on title, even if it's 4%, 5%, a lot of people nowadays are happy with that. So Trevor, do you write up 3 completely separate purchase contracts or 3 options into one? So again, before I write up a purchase contract, I'm going through this spreadsheet with them. I'm giving them this one spreadsheet. I'm showing them the 3 different options. We're having that conversation. Once they've chosen one, that's when I'll write up a purchase contract. Hopefully that makes sense. Yang, what is the maximum longest term for a VTB? It could be anything you want. Anything you want. We've had some, I think the longest we've ever written down has been 5 years, but we've had some that have been extended as well. And they've given us more time because, hey, they like making interest on their money.
After you give them their first check, they're kind of, and then you say, hey, did you want to extend this? We'd love to keep it for another 2 years. Yeah, you know what? I'm okay with still getting those checks for another 2 years. For the most part. Sometimes people need the money, but not very often.
So a couple points that I just want to be clear. In your offers, number 1, make sure that you're happy with any of them that they're going to choose.
Yeah, good call.
Number 2, make sure that you're steering them towards the one you want them to choose. Okay? So you're going to give them everything else they want. If they want a quick closing, give it to them. If they want to take the ceiling fan in their dining room because it's an heirloom or it was an anniversary gift or present, let them take that. If give them everything else that they're wanting to the T. If you do that, then it opens their mind to the things that you want.
It's another good strategy too for giving them something. Is if you happen to realize that they seem older, they seem sick, they seem tired, they seem complacent and just they don't care anymore, but they think that they're gonna have to, well, if it doesn't sell in the next month, we'll put the extra bathroom in the basement and then that should help, or if it doesn't sell in the next month, we'll redo the siding on the outside. Lots of times people say stuff like that. We'll throw it on, if we can sell it as is, great, if not, we'll put the time and energy and money into it. So if you know these things, again, by asking the questions that we talked about last week, you can go to them and say, you know what, we will take care of that, finishing that extra that extra bathroom in the basement. We will fix the fence, or like we got an offer one time because we said we would fix the fence that had been hit by this dump truck, and instead of them having to do it from the time that they had listed it to the time that we came along with an offer, the fence had gotten hit, and they were like, oh, like we needed to sell this house, and now we got to fix it before anyone's going to buy it. And we were like, no, we'll buy it as is. We'll take care of that fence. That lifted so much stress from their shoulders that we could ask them for almost anything else that we wanted, and they were willing to comply.
So again, I don't want you to get stuck on, a VTB. It can be this offer, you fix the fence. This offer, you hire a contractor to fix the fence. And this offer will fix the fence. That's the point that I'm trying to get across here, is that don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about how exactly the numbers that are on here. It's about one of them, you give them everything they want and get what you want, and the other ones you alter as well. So, but playing with the price definitely makes a difference. Some of the things you can change is the amount of deposits you're going to put down. Some of the things you're going to change is, again, the closing date. In this particular offer, it includes the stainless steel fridge, and in this offer, it's not included. You can take it with you because you want it. So all of these different things you can use so you can structure multiple different scenarios. And then inevitably what happens, and Tiff already said this, but they come back to us and they say, you know what, offer C looks great. And I'm happy. In most cases, they came back to the one that we steered them towards because we gave them the most incentives in that particular offer. So you ask your realtor, present them a spreadsheet. Absolutely, Razna. I would give them a simple spreadsheet and say, hey, can you just run this by the other realtor and have the other realtor run this by the seller, just so I have an idea as to what they prefer. Do they prefer A, B, or C? So can you work through realtors to do this? Absolutely.
Yeah, Trevor asked the same question. So it is possible. We did it lots in an overheated market, in an undervalued market, in a buyer's market, in a seller's market. We've used this strategy for 18 years in probably most of the deals that we've bought. So and through realtors and dealing directly with sellers. Yeah.
Yeah, so Leona and Marie, I think you're both kind of asking the same price. Would you show them the spreadsheet on the computer or on paper? Doesn't really matter whether it's on the computer or paper. We've emailed some of these 3 offers. We've also printed them off and sat in front of a seller and went through them with them.
Leona and Marie, because both of you have that manner where you could easily deal with a seller and they would know, like, and trust you really quickly. Because it's in spreadsheet, if you do have a laptop, this is what he used to do while I was sitting there chit-chatting with the sellers when we were dealing directly.
That's right, actually.
He would be sitting there listening, and because he's a numbers person, actually I can even, this is how nice this spreadsheet is it calculates the numbers for you, so I can actually even do this one. But he would come up with scenarios and just say, okay, so from what I'm hearing, you want, like, all you need out of this cash right now is, 10 grand. Is that right? So yeah, we need to pay our bills and we need to move. Okay, perfect. So you don't mind waiting another 2 years to get the rest of the cash. If that means you're going to make more money.
What if I could give you an offer that's actually more than what you're asking for?
But you might have to wait for some of the money. And don't worry, you would have a lien on the house. So you would, it would be held on for you. Does that work for you? And then, Leona and Marie, you can then plug in numbers and say, so I'm just throwing numbers out there. I'm just brainstorming here. But look at, this is what I could, I got to think about this a little more, but look at, this is what I'm coming up with. How would that work for you? Mm-hmm. The end number would be that you'd end up getting $137,468 out of this instead of $135. Does that, sound attractive to you? And you work with them in that scenario going forward. And yes, you can absolutely sit there with your computer. And I loved that part because it was really organic. It was really, look, I'm just here to find a solution that works for you, that works for me. I'm playing with numbers right now. And, does this work? If not, that's okay. Let me keep playing. And it's very, very chill.
Yeah. So I hope that those scenarios help to clarify a little bit what we meant about the multiple offer strategy, giving them different options, giving them more than one option. Yes, you just give them a simple spreadsheet. And then if they accept one of them, that's when you get your realtor, or that's when you write up the offer. And this is a strategy that's worked brilliantly for us. And it can work really, really well for you. And of course, it comes down to working with the right realtors, working with an investment-focused realtor who's on your side, because they'll understand this a lot more than a typical realtor out there.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
Have a
See you
good
next
week.
week.
We'll see you
Take
next
care.
Tuesday, same time.